welcome and really extend a warm welcome to everyone on behalf of the International Society of City and Region Planners. My name is Dr. Tijana Memisevic. I am an ISOCARP board member and a member of its scientific committee. I'm also a sustainable urban development expert and adjunct professor at DePaul University in Chicago. And together with my colleague, Dr. Ulrich Graute, the chair of the ISOCARP Scientific Committee and fellow at the Academy of Social Sciences of UK, we have curated this event today on the topic of artificial intelligence in planning. But to give you a little bit of a background about the Cyber Agora, which is essentially a virtual platform that is dedicated to exchanging knowledge and ideas on global urban and regional planning issues. And it's a recognized successful online event that continues to be a central hub for sharing and embracing diverse planning perspectives from practitioners to academia to allied professionals. It really encourages global participation and constructive dialogue. So I would also like to mention that this event today is being currently live streamed in China via two platforms, the Guojiangcheng platform and the Bilibili platform. So thank you so much to everyone who has tuned in, and let's start. Just to give also a little bit of an introduction on the topic, we are witnessing AI's impact on urban planning in different forms today, whether it's through AI modeling infrastructure, optimizing resource allocation, digital twins, designing sustainable places, or paving the path to smart cities. We will delve into this fascinating interplay between the artificial intelligence and urban planning. And as some claim, we're standing on the brink of a next revolution in urban development. It's truly imperative at this moment to understand both the promises and also the challenges of AI and technology. So we will not only explore how AI can transform our urban landscape, but also how we as planners and citizens can shape these technologies to foster more sustainable, more equitable, and more intelligent urban futures. Now, the field is so broad that it might feel as if we're maybe only scratching the surface today, but we're ready to dive deep into this course with our fantastic participants. So please join me in welcoming Professor Thomas Sanchez from the Texas A&M University, who has a remarkable track record of publication related to AI and planning. And please join me also in thanking him for waking up so early today to take part in this event, considering it's around 7 a.m., right, Tom, on your side of the globe from California. And we would also like to thank Professor Li Fengwen, who is joining us from China in an equally unfavorable time of the day. I believe it's around 10 in the evening, right? So Professor Fengwen, thank you so much. Professor Fengwen is the Vice Dean at the Shanghai Institute of Urban Regeneration and Sustainability at the Shanghai University. For the rest of us, we're good time-wise. We're mostly in the Central European time zone. But nevertheless, many thanks to everyone who joined from all around the globe. We also have Professor Dorota Kamrowska-Rawuszka with us today from the Gdańsk University in Poland. And we will, after the panel and after the Q&A presentations, we will have a reflection by our respective scientific committee and board members, Dr. Li Fan and Dr. Wafa Al-Daily. So thank you, everyone, to all our participants and our keynote speakers. Let's dive into the presentations first. So I will first give the word to Dr. Graute. So Ulrich, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Tijana, for your excellent introduction. Again, I might have here technical glitches whenever it appears on my screen. Interruption of 3 seconds. I will try to not talk. In any way, I will try to repair. I try to repair it after my introduction. Well, we as scientific committee, we support the board and the society at large. We do it by supporting the conferences, by supporting the review process for awards and publications, and we try to stimulate the discussion on subjects relevant for urban planning in our society. And we will have another Cyber Agora in July on degrowth. And we had work in the past on pre- and post-disaster planning, which is going on. And now we are entering the new field of artificial intelligence in urban planning. And it's interesting. It's interesting for me to see that so many AI scientists are writing books which are more or less political science books, because they are aware of the magnitude of the innovation wave which is coming, and which brings also a number of risks. I myself, I'm in the field of planning, I'm more an interface manager. I work on the relation between governance and urban planning, and different policy fields and policy levels. And as such, of course, it is very interesting for me. And I'm excited to be part of this beginning of a dialogue within our society. There will be follow-up activities related to the conferences in the Philippines, the new city planning conference in September, and the World Planning Congress in October of this year, where there will be separate discussions on AI. So we are just the starter here. Earlier this spring, I was asked by the Academy of Social Science of the United Kingdom to prepare a policy briefing on AI and urban planning. I'm very glad that last night they managed to not only accept the text, but also to upload it on the website. I will share the link later in the chat of this session. But I would like to, I don't want to present the entire policy briefing here, but I want to refer to 5 recommendations which will be made in that policy paper. And you find them then at the end of the paper. The first recommendation is that social scientists, politicians, planners, and the general public must be prepared to anticipate and adapt to the impact of AI on whole societies and political systems. And this is the thing. If you look into the literature, Stuart Russell, he says, it is unstoppable, this innovation wave, and it will generate at some point human-like intelligence or superhuman human intelligence. He doesn't give a date, but he is convinced that we are on track in that direction. He says that AI can be the biggest invention in humanity, but it can also bring the end of humanity if things go wrong and this artificial intelligence gets out of our control. Mustafa Suleyman, who wrote the other book, he writes that hundreds of millions of people have to be retrained on their job. This is very dramatic. You can imagine if that would happen, how much disruption it could bring. And it is backed by the IMF, which published in January on its website a statement according to which globally up to 50%, 40% of the workforce, so that 50% of the global workforce will be affected, and that brings a lot of risk for disruption. And of course, also opportunities for new employment. But it's not clear if the new employments will balance what gets lost. Okay, now the 5 recommendations by the Academy of Social Science is The first, I read already that we have to look on the impact on the whole society. The second is that therefore planners need to explore risks and opportunities of AI applications as technical tools and as pilots, co-pilots that are capable of gaining influence over perceptions and actions of humans, or of becoming a dominant tool for control of cities and citizens. I know I have colleagues who say, no, don't worry, that won't happen. We have our tools under control, but we are talking here about learning machines. And already now, some developers of AI applications were surprised about the strategies which their tools used. And then, of course, we are not in a closed box of AI in urban planning. Instead, we are using applications from technology developed elsewhere, often with a general purpose or with other purposes and goals. And also very important, sorry for this interruption, which are at least on my screen, there is a lot of chance of dual use, so that you may use a tool in a way to increase the quality of life in cities, but others may use the same tool to reduce efforts. So, and for me, AI in urban planning is like an additional stakeholder, which we have. We have institutional stakeholders, and we are getting also artificial intelligence. Okay, let's go to the last three present recommendations. I think citizens need to be given insights into planning and decision-making processes, beginning with the way objectives and preferences are programmed into machines. So we cannot be all technology savvy and know how the programming, the coding is done. But we have to know that how this is and machines. And then fourth point, given the magnitude, complexity, and interrelatedness of the challenges facing society, researchers must prevent a new culture war with Luddites wrecking learning machines, because that is a risk. You know, if you have hundreds of millions or 30% of the employment which is affected by AI, then there may be a lot of disruption, and we should try to prevent that, partly by, instead of these culture war, scientists and policymakers across the world should learn how to use wisely government AI to increase the much needed problem solving capacity of cities and beyond. And that's with what I want to close. I have the hope that we can use these new technologies, its applications, to manage our challenges, which we have in the cities. Currently, the UN is preparing a summit of the future because the SDGs are off track. Apparently, the world is not able to manage this agenda yet. I hope that artificial intelligence applications can help us to better manage these challenges. And with that, I give the floor back to Tijana. I will start now trying to repair my machine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulrich. Thank you for providing us that policy context of the risks and opportunities of AI. And without further ado, we will hear now from Professor Tom Sanchez, who will talk about where do we start when we're exploring this potential role of AI in urban planning. And he will discuss how AI can enhance various planning processes and offer suggestions for identifying the appropriate application for planning analysis and plan making. So Tom, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, my slides visible?
Yes, everything looks great.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, hello, it's a very, I was gonna say good morning, but it's not good morning everywhere. But hello to everybody, great to be here and to be part of this panel on this topic. I really appreciated Ulrich's review and summary of that report. I think those were excellent points for us to be thinking about, particularly, the points that say, how do we, we need to be prepared. There's going to be change. We don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We have some hints, but as a profession in planning, we'll be experiencing a process of innovation adoption, which we can't always predict. And I think this isn't too dissimilar to what we saw in planning, at least in the US in the early 1980s when desktop computers came along. And then there was fear that those desktop computers were going to take a lot of jobs away from people. Everything is going to become automated. These computers are going to perform all of the tasks that planners do. And we saw that wasn't the case. And if anything, I think it actually generated more work. And then when even the applications came along, probably one of the more prominent early on was a spreadsheet. And then the question became, okay, here's a framework, here's a structure for me to use. What do I do with it? How do I put data into it? How do I calculate things? Why would I do that? I'm doing just fine doing these things manually. And then we've kind of learned through that process about the structure of data and lots of different applications just through a simple framework like spreadsheets. And then we saw the emergence of GIS. And I think GIS was a bit easier for us to understand what its direct application was, because we were doing kind of those same exact things manually in terms of drawing maps, redrawing maps, performing some, manual analysis, although nothing near the kinds of spatial analysis that we're able to perform today, as well as the data managed. But the concept of the map as the data was very, very familiar to us. And so what I'm going to talk about related to AI is kind of stepping back a little bit, because I have discussions that say, well, where do I even get started with this? Because I see other people's applications and they're close to what I'm doing, but they're not exactly what I want to do. And so unless it's being able to take something right off the shelf and apply it to your problem, you will have to develop, you'll have to develop your own, or you'll have to work along with a technologist or a computer scientist to build an application. And we're seeing this already happening in the field of planning. A lot of these tools coming together on different platforms, consultants building applications, planning departments, researchers, certainly, and there's lots and lots of research about AI applications out there. And so, in my brief presentation, this is stepping back a little bit and kind of thinking about, okay, what kinds of problems, what kinds of operations, or how do we know a question that might involve AI or not? And so these are just a few ideas of things to think about, which I'm calling the fundamental AI capabilities. And then I've got a couple of recommendations. primarily, the recommendation really is we need to be prepared. We need to learn about the tools, and both on the in terms of the benefits and the costs. And then I thought an important comment that Ulrich made was about how we're going to be getting or probably adapting applications from other sectors before we start kind of generating our own. So we're going to be borrowing, but then I think over time we'll be specializing those into our own kind of planning related questions and problems that we're looking at. And then hopefully have some discussion and questions from everybody participating at the end. This is what I call the AI menu. Most of the AI sorts of applications that I think are appropriate in one way or another for things that we do in terms of observation, data collection, analysis, leading to decision making. And I don't really think, you know, any of these tools make decisions for us. Planners make the decisions, or we make recommendations to other decision makers. The tools themselves, and don't worry, I'm not going to talk about all these. The tools themselves make suggestions, they make recommendations, there are outputs from them that then involve human or humans to decide whether those are appropriate or not. Not too dissimilar from the way that we do decision making today. I don't think that there's ever going to be a reliance on output from a computer model or an AI model that we say that's the answer, that's what we're going to do. And so that's still going to be up to us. So what kinds of problems, what sorts of things do we look for in you know, when we're looking for applications or the use of these tools? And so these are the 7, and these are general, and certainly there are other types, and these aren't all distinct, as we'll see with some of the other examples that I'll give. But generally what we see within AI is the ability to recognize patterns. And that's, you know, when we think about what we do as planners, that's what we're looking for: patterns of activity, patterns of movement, patterns of change. And so that becomes, that's an important aspect or element of the problems that we look at. For AI, we're thinking about using it for automating labor-intensive activities as we go through the analysis process. Also, in cases where we have lots and lots of data, well, how do we make some meaning of that? And how do we get that into our analysis and decision-making process? Certainly, predictive analysis is an important aspect, and we do, as part of planning, prediction and estimation is very important. Decision support, certainly. Language processing, which has emerged just kind of seemingly out of nowhere in the last couple of years. And then optimization, which has been, you know, when we think about things like, well, I'll talk about some examples of that, but that's a general type of problem that we, or question that we have in planning. So some examples, pattern recognition. One of the things that we see, we're working with data that's in, you know, 2 dimensions, maybe even 3 dimensions. And what we're trying to identify is, you know, what's that pattern look like? And what does that mean? If this is something that's about time of day, day of week, season, and we may have a planning solution that's going to be different based on how we, the patterns that we observe here. And certainly in a spatial sense, where do we have those hotspot areas? How can we identify those clusters or patterns? And these couple of examples here are really around structured data, where it's where we've got fields and variables that and observations in a kind of a neat table-like structure potentially. But then we also we can look at patterns, that are unstructured, and so we can see what we want to analyze in this case is, you know, what are the features that are in this image. And so it's more of a unstructured type of data where part of our analysis is determining or detecting what's in an image like that. For the automation aspect of it, and so the automation assumes that we've got a set of rules or a process in mind, and we have these, and this quick example here is for permit processing. There's some decision-making criteria that we use. There's steps in this process, and so what we would like to be able to do with AI is build this process into a model so it can handle some of the, you know, the labor-intensive sorts of review and analysis quickly, and particularly that stuff that doesn't take a lot of, you know, thinking on our part or evaluation. And so we can build a structure like this based on rules that we identify. Handling large volumes of data. And one of the examples that we've seen here is trying to use public comments, you know, thousands or millions of public comments that come in from different formats. And how do we sift through all of that to determine what are the topics, what's the sentiment that's being expressed in that data, where, you know, the traditional way would be we would assign somebody to read through all of those and, you know, and take some notes and report back. Now we've got the tools to be able to, with human involvement, process, you know, loads of data. And this is just one example. Certainly we have cases of lots of spatial data and things like traffic data, public transit rider data, that there's you know, lots to work with. And so, and what we're seeing in some of these cases with a lot of data is then transporting that to another platform like a dashboard that can then be used for decision making. And so again, this idea about the patterns mixed with the automation being moved to a visualization format. Prediction, I mentioned, this is very common. Population predictions in particular are something that planners have used kind of since the beginning, I imagine. But you know, you looking at, and this is also a form of machine learning. We've got the data here that either may be just historical data of population sizes over time, and then we're going to make a prediction from that. It's also a type of pattern, like I've talked about. But prediction, you know, whether it's kind of cross-sectional or historical data, is certainly an important application of AI. Complex decision making, kind of similar to the automation, where we're going to have criteria, and this could be lots and lots of criteria that interact with each other, lots of variables which we know might be, or we're expecting in our model that's going to be related to some outcomes or alternatives that might be discrete choices. Or they may be continuous in nature, like a scale of, you know, of data. But we've got all these interacting variables and factors, you know, like in this case with facility location. And we can build this into a model. But the main idea is that we've got this, we're trying to look at some kind of logic behind the decision process, taking into account that data. The natural language processing, again, kind of, being able to use language, both text, voice, different forms, and then being able to make meaning of it. So not only just the kind of the processing of it, but trying to sift through it and find out what are the important topics that are being discussed, and what's the sentiment, if we're interested in that, as far as whether positive or negative things are being said in that process. And so we're analyzing language to do that. And certainly connected to language processing, and also patterns and some of these other areas that I've talked about, is what we've seen with large language models now, like in the case of ChatGPT, and where we can start to customize these models based on lots and lots of data, or lots and lots of text, lots and lots of information, and that also might be images and video as well. But being able to build kind of a knowledge base, and I think that this is actually one of the exciting aspects of large language models, is as a knowledge management tool. When we're able to assemble, planning information and planning documents, planning regulations into a form that we can start to use that on a conversational basis to ask questions and get responses that we can consider and use in our analysis process. And then finally, another type, the last kind of type of problem is around optimization. And so we see a lot of this in planning. How do we minimize or maximize the impacts of a process or of a system? And we've been doing this for a long time now, but now we've got some tools that help us speed up this process, use lots and lots of data, recognize patterns in that process, and provide some intelligence that we can use in our decision-making process. So those were kind of 7 kind of general areas that I think that are important for us to think about, as we're looking at a planning problem and trying to decide, is AI even a candidate to be used in this analysis process? And some recommendations, these are on some sources. The American Planning Association has a technology division. They're providing lots of great information on these new and emerging technologies. So I would recommend and I think the QR code there will take you to their site. One of the APA also puts out planning advisory service, Quick Notes. Claire Daniel has one put together on ChatGPT, just as an example. Plenty of Quick Notes coming out. And then I've got a report, an introduction to AI in planning, and lots of other great PAS reports there on several other topics. And so look forward to questions, comments. Yes, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom, for your enlightening presentation on these foundational aspects of AI in urban planning. I think you really set the stage for a deeper understanding of these practical applications of AI. And now we will turn our attention to Professor Dorota Kamrowska-Załuszka, who will discuss the potential of predictive AI-based tools to transform urban design, and emphasizing the international integration of technology with societal needs, right, Dorota, to kind of enhance urban livability. So please, Dorota, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just sharing the screen. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I could also say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and this is even makes me more happy that I have opportunity to present to you my studies. The majority of the material comes from my habilitation, which I finished last year. I would like to very briefly show you the findings of my meta review and then focus on 3 examples of studies which we did in our team in collaboration with different teams from Hong Kong University there. What I would like also to say is I will focus only on the predictive AI. I was very much tempted to dig into the regenerative AI too, but after long thoughts, I decided still to let's say 2 new fields, lots is going on, maybe on the next situation. And working with the predictive AI for last, let's say, nearly 10 years, here we already know what we can expect, how it can help us as planners. So that's why I decided to focus on it. But I'm happy within discussion also to discuss the generative part of it, because this is the one which is now the most thrilling probably for us. So just to set the stage, 3 major things why AI is important for planning. So it helps us better understanding complex urban environment, this wide access to large volume of data. We can perform new analysis. We have higher aggregation, which were not possible because of the higher aggregation. We have geocoded data, so we can be very precise. Then our perception really our perception changed already, but these tools are perfect to really show the processes, to show the planning as or the city as a system composed of economic activity, human behaviors, not roads, buildings. And actually, all these analytics change how we understand the city. We, as a citizens, as a professionals, the embedded technology, we start with all the embedded technology, we start to understand, observe our cities as a web. When we go to the new place, we actually the virtual reality we have is nearly as important as the one we see around. I will speak a little bit more about it, because one of the examples I would like to show you is the Kevin Lynch 5 study. So how we perceive the city now in the digital era. Very, very briefly, I wouldn't like to speak here about the data sources. There are new data sources emerging, but also we rediscover old data sources, which I think is very, very interesting. We use different way the historic urban data, art, humanities collection, but what I work mostly, and I think it's the biggest both challenge and opportunity, is the new linkages of existing data. Data of different owners, different domain, etc. During my meta review, I studied all the papers from Web of Science in last 10 years, 2013-23, which deals with the big data and AI-based tools. And these were the 4 main fields of the studies which were there. Some of them are quite, let's say, already known for several years, like cellular automata or agent-based modeling. More and more, we can see the artificial neural networks, both convolutional and recurrent. And this will be also the example I will be showing, because I work mostly with machine learning and artificial neural networks myself. lots about genetic algorithms, spatial DNA, but also we see fuzzy logic expert systems. What I found also interesting and was that in quite many studies we combine 2-3 types of different AI tools to avoid the limitation of the different types. So, for example, the artificial neural networks with cellular automata is very often used for modeling urban growth. General 6 main fields where it is used. Regional linkages, polycentric spatial structure, urban spatial dynamics, urban flows, health microclimate environment, urban morphologies, I will come to this one in next slide, and the analysis of behaviors and opinion of urban dwellers. This is the first study I would like to very briefly show you. I cannot go much into details, but I will be very happy to share the link to the paper, which is quite big. So the first study, we, as I mentioned, we worked on the lynch elements, tried to verify if the imageability is still something which is important in the digital era. We did study on the triangulation method, so we have a quite traditional walking tours, sketch maps, the mind maps. We did it on the both with the students and citizens, but we work on the GIS official database, and we worked also on social media data. Doing the image processing, geo-tagging, cluster analysis, kernel density, etc. What we found out, we found that nodes, edges are very, very present in also in the social media data. With the paths and the district, it was a little bit more confusing, but actually the most confusing was for us were the landmarks, because we found out that they were a little bit scattered around the real landmark. It took us some time to realize that actually the photos are taken from the site and we need to have a buffer. Another, in my opinion, interesting things which come out from the study quite unexpectedly was that we, while analyzing the tweets, we got also the languages, so we could find which language were they written on, and we were probably very, very accurately able to see where there are the immigrants enclaves in Gdańsk. Probably a bit more, even if a local statistic did. So, for example, with the Ukrainian migrants coming, we could see where they rent flats, where they stayed. Second study was more connected with the Alexander theory, semi-lattice, complex network and living structure. We did it for 4 cities, Gdańsk, Hong Kong, Gdańsk, London, and New York. I should have mentioned it from the very beginning. I'm trying to be brief, sorry for that. I'm saying me, which means I'm still working with a colleague of mine who is now on the sister university, Hanna Obrecht-Prądzyńska, who is also part in the ISOCARP, and Jianxian Huang, Lisai Li, and their team working in Hong Kong University and Hong Kong City University. We managed to confirm the findings from the first 2, let's say, from the semi-lattice and complex network, that the old natural district performed better as Alexander expected. With the living structure, we had a mixed result. It was very difficult to say something. Now, this is the study which is still ongoing, so I don't have a publication for you, but hopefully it will be there in a few months. This was Jane Jacobs' study about the vibrancy, livability. Actually, I prepared machine learning model, and here it was mostly gradient boosting machine, which worked better on it. We have morphological, functional, socio-cultural, and connectivity factors, and the functional were the most important for us. We try to see, compare the results with the geographical wave of regression to see if the real machine learning model, if the AI is more accurate. It was more accurate, but of course we have this geographic spread, which is important. Just to finish my presentation, from this meta-analysis I showed you briefly, 6 major fields where big data analytics and AI tool are the most, let's say, used in planning. They can support planning process. So this is large-scale urban modeling because, for example, neural networks allow us to analyze large volume of data, and both on the terms of quantity of observation, but also on the size of observation, like interpreting films, images, etc. This high velocity and frequency, this type of tools allows us to capture the rapid processes, and especially, for example, it's useful in the data scarce environment, but not only. It's also useful if we have only official data which comes out once a year or twice a year, so we can really see how the processes are changing. Very often we want, for example, for the master plans or for the metropolitan areas, we want to analyze the areas in the functional areas, not in the let's say statutory scales, administratory border. So this geocoding allows us also to have this fluid different areas. Also high granularity, we have geocoded data, so we can really see very strongly heterogeneity of the city, how the different areas differs. 2 more, this collaborative sensing, voluntary geographic information, but also use of the social media data. And what is important for us, it's this new layer of analysis. So we can now really assess behavior, sentiments, even happiness of the people. I would like to leave you with 4 last, let's say, findings. They may be useful for our discussion later. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dorota, for your comprehensive presentation. I'm very sure that it inspired many questions of the audience, and they're eager to address them to you during the Q&A session. But let's now turn and hear next from Dr. Fenkin, who will talk about the spatial demand customization for industry city integration based on AI portrait, based on a case study of Lingan New City in Shanghai. Dr. Franklin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tijana. Tijana, can you hear me? Okay. Okay,
yes, we can hear you well.
Colleagues from ISOCARP.
If you don't mind just putting the full mode on for your presentation.
Okay. Is that clear? Is that clear?
We're still not seeing the presentation mode. It is. We can see the presentation, but we see the PowerPoint with the slides on the side. We don't see.
Okay. No, is that okay now?
It's not changing. No.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it again. Okay?
Yes, now it's perfect. Thank you. Oh, it disappeared. Seems like you stopped sharing. Oh, great, good.
Great. Okay, sorry. My dear colleagues and audience online, today I would like to share my slides about customized planning strategy supported by AI Portrait. Actually, the industry city integration spatial needs is a specific research aim, or in AI language, it's a specific vertical scheme. And the case is the Lingang New City, which is in the far suburb of Shanghai, and then I come from Shanghai University, and yeah. And talking about AI, we talk about three things. The first one is algorithm. The extra algorithm is very important for AI studies, and the second one is computing power, and the third one of the most important, is the data. So the data obtaining and the AI diagnose and analyze the feature of the data, the interact with each other. We know the algorithm, but we don't know how they understand, how AI understands the feature of the data. But it's not very important. We acquire high quality data to feed with AI, and the AI will understand and anticipate what will happen, and it will be very enlightenment to our planning strategies. That is the main logic of our AI study and AI applied approaches in planning. So the first thing I would like to share, how can we obtain qualified data for AI training? And what we the result of our training is a portrait text that AI understand what the people like, their social status, their daily movements, spatial temporal behaviors, and also the data from cities. They interact with each other. So the first page, first section, and the second one is where the spatial needs analyze, because the AI anticipates what the people need, and we do that in a specific case in Lingang City, in a vertical scheme called city industry integration. That is research purpose of this small research scheme. And the third one, we understand the result of the AI analyze, and we do customized planning strategies. In the traditional planning approaches, we understand the current situation and we do planning manually. And now we use AI tools. We can understand specific needs from different group of people, and with different age, with different income, different occupation, and we understand their needs for the urban space is quite different. So we can specifically customize the planning and compare with the OTAs, compare with what David Harvey and Neil Brenner and Henry Lefebvre said, the production of space, fast production. And now we do customized planning services. Yeah, that is what we can do in the AI era. So the first one, talking about data, we talk about LBS data, big data, spatial temporal data, about 10 to 15 years ago. We usually have enormous LBS data from the Telegram servers and API apps. So when we're turning on the positioning, we can locate people. Actually, the location accuracy is quite high, but the data density is rare. The data is uneven over the timeline. That is traditional LBS data. And now we have another kind of new data, which is quite important for AI studies. We can extract the cell phone rooms. Even you are offline, we can see where you are and what is the spatial temporal location. And also the AI can study with your behavior and then know what is the social status and the behavior of you. So we draw data from different kind of rooms. This kind of data have very high spatial temporal accuracy and continuity, and the rate of the identify in that scenario is nearly 100%. So we can trace nearly all cell phones, but enormously with a very strict legal process. And but before we feed this data to AI big model, we must verify whether this kind of data is real, whether it is real in fact in the real society, real world. So we do LBS data verification with traditional data like traffic OD, like population and economic census from the government. By cross-reference this kind of data with the census data, we can verify whether it is useful for our algorithm. Yeah. So after that, we we put this kind of data like SDI, like QI, like rooms, like GPS, like Beidou, satellite, like drones, even submarine. This kind of data gathered from different equipment. We feed with we do data collection, and then we do data clearing and mining, like reference system, machine learning, cluster learning, deep learning, and after that, the AI understand the features of different mountains of LBS data. And they have a natural language processing system and also manual justification. And then we the AI actually learn. The AI will evaluate and have task systems like they learn the device information. They know they evaluate the app behavior, what is the online behavior, offline behavior, and they have then we have analyzed for vertical skin sectors, which is what will you do? What is your real research will do? What is the real question you want to face with this AI learning? For example, you evaluate the commercial sector, residence property, industry, retail, and culture tourism. This is kind of we call specific vertical scheme. Like today, I'm talking about industry city integration scheme. Yes. So this is a process. A big modeling learns LBS data features, and then from portrait label data. This is output of the machine learning. And also our algorithm evolved very quickly. Now our portrait labels accuracy and coverage is greatly improved by our new algorithm. For example, 23% improvement in portrait sorting and 8-fold improvement in quality portrait identification. We nearly can identify half of our LBS data samples. We can identify the portrait layers. What kind of layers? Is like this. We can recognize more than 1,000 portrait tags from LBS data, adapt to the APIs. This is the algorithm that we don't know what exact the AI justifies this kind of information, but this is output, like the basic portrait, the offline behavior preference, online behavior preference, consumer willingness, device properties, and business tax, and so on. More than 1,000. So, what is your real question with this AI output? We must understand what we are talking about, what we are dealing with, the real question of the city. So, for example, we can define different label assembly depending on what you want to study, or what is the specific vertical schemes you want to study. And for example, we can define a label assembly for social attributes like gender, age, occupation, marriage status, presence or absence of underage children, age stage of the children, and so on. Yeah, this is a label assembly, represents the social attributes of a group of people. And we also can do a spatial temporal behavior label attributes, like the the site of your home, the site of your working place. That is anticipated from the AI, and the place of your business trip. What is the first, second, and third place you would like to go in the coming days, and also labels of consumer behavior, which is very important for business study, like what is your consumption level, monthly consumption amount, income level, or real income account. The AI will answer, will do anticipation about that. So different assemblies of labels reflect various dimensions of spatial temporal behavior of people with different social attributes, which lead to different spatial needs. So the AI will tell you what kind of people need what kind of place. So we can precisely match, but under your judgment, under your value, under the finance circumstances, and under the policy. Yeah. So this is talk about mechanism, data mechanism, and then I will talk about case we are studying recently. With AI portrait, how can we identify the spatial needs? And then we do customized planning strategy. My case is in the far suburb of Shanghai, which is called Lingang City. Actually, Tesla factory is there, and also C919, their airplane of China. And this new town was planned in 2003, and aims to become an open, innovative, intelligent industry integrated city for 2 million people. And this is master plan of Lingang. And after 20 years development, it has emerged 5 different function zones with relatively clear boundaries in this kind of area, like the Dishuihu Central Zone. You can see a lake here, which is the CBD of the new town, of the new city actually. And to the southwest of the CBD is the research and education room. There are many universities and the research institutes there. And on the north coast is the industry zone, which Tesla gigafactory is there. And nearby is urban community zone. The blue collars work in the industry zone and live nearby. And the rest of them is rural area. This is 5 different function zones after 20 years development. And AI can we put the spatial temporal data into the AI big model, and the AI evaluates each function zone, and the AI anticipates what is social attributes of people in different zones. For example, in the CBD zone, the AI anticipates that the people live there are highly educated with higher income, but the people live there with commute with a very far commute ratio. They live in the CBD, but go to the inner Shanghai. They travel more than 100 kilometers every day. So we call the AI defined an amphibious people, this kind of group people. Yeah. And people live in the research and education zone. The AI finds that the people live there are highly educated also, but has a relatively low level of consumption because most of them are university students. And they're studying, living, and working in this area. Their daily commuting is characterized by a short and medium distance of commute distance. And people in the industry zone, the AI anticipates that the young working force with moderate education levels Primarily, people are most of them. Some of them are local, are not local people. Most of them not local people. So they rent for their living, and the commute distance. Most of them are within 5 kilometers. They have very high resilience on stable jobs and nearby communities and some facilities they need. And urban communities, most of them are local people. And yeah, they find that they have lower incomes and have high preparation on their own houses, properties in this area. And people in the rural area, the AI judge that they are aging population, and the level of education and income is relatively low. So, and more than half of them commute within 5 kilometers. So after we saw the output of the AI, we can see different group of people and with different spatial needs. For example, the amphibious people defined by AI in Dishuihu zone, which is a CBD zone, they have 2 specific types of spatial needs. People who live in central Shanghai and employed in Dishuihu zone, they need high quality housing actually. Otherwise, they live there. They don't travel 100 kilometers away, and they need high quality public services. And people who live in this area, but employed in inner Shanghai, they may seek for suitable job opportunities. For example, they have jobs in Zhangjiang Scientific Town. They cannot find a suitable job in Ninggan, so they travel quite far. And for the university student, they need diversified space for leisure and consumption. And also there's need for industry, academia, research integrated spaces. And people for the blue collar people workers, and also the researchers, industry researchers, they need more comprehensive urban community facilities and high quality customized resident product. Yeah. So after we know what the people need, what different group of people need for different space demand, we can do customized planning strategies. For example, in this scheme, industry city integration scheme, we can deal with some other schemes, of course. In this scheme, we established the framework for the customized spatial service framework for people, space, and the industry value chains to meet different spatial needs of different group of people. For example, in the Dishuihu zone, we customized living and facilities for corporate executives, like the international community. You can see the islands. They have boats, they have cars, and this kind of space is customized to meet their needs. Otherwise, they will travel every day 100 kilometers away. It's not sustainable, and it's not
wonderful. Yeah.
And also customized living facilities for the scientists and the research, and also the startups graduates. We have this kind of area, and also for the blue collars, we have like Langwang community for residential projects to meet their needs. So that is a brief description about my research. There are 3 kind of points. 3 points I need to emphasize. The first one, I think, is the high quality, high accuracy, and wide coverage of the data. It's very important in AI supported planning research. And we have more than 1,000 AI portrait tags. But what is the real question? This is very important to define different label assemblies for specific research ends, or we call specific vertical schemes. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frankman. That was incredibly interesting detailed explanation about the AI portrait-based spatial demand. Thank you. I just want to give everybody just a little update that we are currently being viewed by more than 2,400 visitors in the live stream, in addition to our current team's meeting, which is amazing. And we really want to give a big shout out and thanks to Mrs. Huang Hua, who facilitated this. And I also want to personally thank our dear Li Fan for organizing the live stream. It's incredible. I think this is a new record for the Cyber Agora visitation. So with that in mind, I would like to open now the panel. We have already some conversation going on in the chat, but before I go to that, there was one question at the very beginning that was submitted by Frank, and I'll read it out loud and open up to any of the speakers who would like to address it. The question says, could AI ever generate any kind of urban or master plan comparable to the plans we know today without human interference? Maybe it's already being done. So what are your thoughts? Anyone? Tom, Dorota?
Okay, I can be the brave one. Well, generally, I strongly believe that in future, up to a point, yes. Of course, it depends what we will expect from master plan, how well we define what should be there, what are the conditions, what is important, what are our aims, etc. But up to a point, yes. What I'm more reluctant to that we will take the results of the AI without the consideration of the professionals. I think this, and this is not only the problem of the planning. For example, in medicine, we'll have the same. There will be at the end, at least for now, we are not ready to give the AI the responsibility of the doctor, also the legally wise. So this is for now, but I believe that in several years, the technical capacity will be so high that the master plans will be done as good as by us, unfortunately.
Hopefully not better, though. Thank you so much, Graute. Yeah.
If it's better and it's up to us, if we have 5 versions, we choose the best one based on our assumption, on the assumption of all the stakeholder, maybe it is good.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dorota. Would anyone else like to chime in?
Yeah, I think that AI shouldn't be a substitute for traditional planning methodology. It should be supportive. So even if AI should be able one day to produce a master plan, it should be, and here I agree with Dorota, it should be then taken by planning experts and it should be discussed with all stakeholders and not taken as without alternative, as it is sometimes in politics. But maybe there are other opinions.
One point I'd like to bring up is both stakeholders and experts have been mentioned by Dorota and Ulrich. I'm wondering, kind of in this process, and this isn't anything new, but how much weight do we put on, you know, and I hate to put it this way, but a stakeholder that maybe doesn't have full information that the expert has or that the planner has, but who we consider their opinions and their preferences to be very, very important. How do we balance that?
Excellent point, Tom. How do we make a hierarchy between stakeholders, or are we even supposed to, right?
Right. That's that's my question.
Yeah.
It begins with the question if the planner has all information. Of course, in principle, we need full information to take rational decisions. But do we always have? I think data generation is across the board a challenge.
Wonderful. Yeah. If we have covered this question, I think there's a lot more going on in the chat that we can also address. And for example, Julio placed a very interesting question to Dorota directly, but maybe other speakers would like to chime in on that. He is asking, what is the most fascinating ML algorithm you have worked with? Do you have any preferences on specific one versus the other? In my experience, I really like random forests, which is supervised, and k-means clustering, which is unsupervised, because of their use with mapping data. I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
So I will maybe start. I already start answering a little bit, but well, generally, to tell you the truth, I'm trying to read as much as possible about the algorithm, which are the best, what are the preferences, but I'm not a programmer. I'm planner with the programming knowledge. So mostly I will study what algorithm I used, which are the most efficient for different tasks, which are the most efficient for similar tasks. And then, to tell you the truth, I normally do brute force grid analysis to check if if I was right, if the accuracy is the highest.
Trial and error.
That makes sense. Julio, would you like to chime in as well?
Yeah, just wanted to say that it's a fascinating world we're living in as planners too. And like Dorota said, we're planners, we're probably not programmers, or we have some knowledge of it. And if we want to think about the future of generative AI in urban planning profession, the only way this is going to work in a good way is if planners really put an effort on understanding and generating those, right? And or understanding the rules that are going to generate these things, these urban plans, these things in the future. And so, but if you think about it, we're planners, we enjoy doing these plans. We want to do that all the time. We don't want the computers to do it ourselves. Yeah. And so I think it's more important to think about what we like doing it. I like AI to do my laundry and to clean my house instead of doing my plans, right? So
exactly.
That's the point I wanted to mention.
Exactly. Great point, Julio. I just want to address one question that seems to have a lot of traction in the chat. The question is from Iman or Imain. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. How do we prevent monopolization of urban planning data by tech giants and ensure it remains in the public domain? What mechanisms can be put in place to ensure transparency and accountability in AI-driven urban planning decisions? Maybe this might be a question for Tom.
Well, I just wanted to say that that's an excellent question, and I want to mention an example that I ran into. One of our students was doing a master's thesis, building a digital twin model of the transit system on campus at our university, and what he found out was he wasn't able to get the data because the university had already contracted with a consultant to use that data. Now that became kind of their property, or they had control over that. So you have a university that wouldn't share data with a student for a student project because of this arrangement that they had with a private service provider. So I think this is, data is, very valuable, and I can see where the market, is going to step in, and just the potential for control of that, or the lack of control, I should say, is a very important consideration. That's a great question. How do we protect that?
Great example. Thank you so much, Tom. I would like to open the floor to Ulrich. Maybe he has additional questions for you.
Well, I can add to this question in the book by Mustafa Sulaiman. he describes that he's expecting a competition between centralization and fragmentation. So he says, look at the internet. There we have only one Google, we have only one Amazon, but we also have fragmentation. Everybody has his and her own device. Countries are trying to build their own platforms and so on. So there are both trends towards centralization because a lot of AI will be cheap. So it is not clear yet, but that could make it even more difficult to contain the development and to prevent frustration of citizens. Yes, and that's what I want to say on this point.
Thank you, Ulrich. I think Dorota raised her hand. Dorota.
Yes, if I could also, because in my opinion, if we are speaking about the access to data and transparency, at least in Europe, I see a very big role of the cities there. Because lots of data is public, is managed somehow by the cities, and then the kind of procurements which are really prioritizing open data, of course, in the places where it's possible, because we have also the question of confidentiality and the security, which is of course, but where it's possible, this is something where I see the place for the cities, for the regions.
Thank you, Dorota. And I'll just add one more question before we're almost at the end of our time, and we need some reflections from Lee and Wafa, please. So please keep this very short with the answering. The question is from Pietro. In the presentations, I've seen many topics discussed. Oops, sorry. In the last 10 years around the topic of smart cities, where do you place the differences that are being triggered by tools related to artificial intelligence? Are we in danger of going through another 10 years of recreating data that is never integrated or interoperable and burdening cities with more of the same without obvious benefits? Are we in danger of having such a scenario? What are your thoughts? Not many answers. Okay.
I see Rolf.
Yeah, I see Rolf has his hand up. Rolf, go ahead.
Thank you, Tijana. Just some thoughts I have been following in the last months. The Artificial Intelligence Act in the EU, maybe the ones in Europe among us can confirm this. We need for sure some kind of regulation or regulatory levels, because AI will affect many aspects of our lives, and we need to increase the effectiveness of how we use it, but also to be sure that the use of data is fair, is accessible, is not repetitive. It does not create double efforts, but it enables things that we have not been able to achieve before, but without monopolizing the ones who control this data or the ones who own this data. And because that's the risk we are talking about also, and we have it already with or without AI. There are always risks of monopolies, but in my reaction to Pietro would be to make sure that we all participate, that we all actually develop our skills and our knowledge in this area, and support also the new generations, because this will be the ones who ultimately decide on the future of AI in planning.
Thank you, Rob. I'm really sorry that I cannot take any more answers or questions, because we only have 5 more minutes and the meeting will end. So if we can just have some reflections from Lee and Wafa. on the discussion that we had today and the whole event and the presentations that we listened to, including the question and answering part. Who would like to go first, Lee or Wafa?
Maybe I can go first if Lee.
Yes, thank you, Wafa.
Okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, of course, thank you very much for organizing that, Tijana and Julia. And it's very important to address this topic right now because it's very controversial, very unique tools that planners are having now in hands. This is very important to discuss to prepare the new generations because they are the ones, as Rolf mentioned, that are going to lead the planning practices, theories, and applications across the world. While we are talking about all these presentations that speaks about the potentials, the challenges, the fear, the phobia, the interest, this is a very important discussion that we have today that prepare the platform for the next generations, or also for the current one who are practicing the planning in planning development areas across the world. Just a few things that I think very important to highlight that while we are optimizing the AI in urban planning, having this data analysis, visualization, and predictive modeling, and different scenarios, having these patterns, it's very important also to connect these to human size and human ethics, and also bringing back them to policies. The question that has been raised by Iman, I think, and Pietro as well, they're very important, and other questions are very important as well. And we need to prevent the monopolization of urban planning data that can be probably having open source of data, government legislations, and they need to, I won't say control, but at least organize this type of things and have standardized data formats. Having the public-private partnerships should be in there, decentralized data, public participation, have ethical regulations, have transparent process, and also the fair engagement of all stakeholders, including citizens. We need to have them also having the capacity building to teach them how they can elevate or bring up their skills to the point where they can be equal in decision-making process. The education process is very important. Having the audit and accountability mechanism should be in place. Public awareness, all these very important tools. All the examples that we have seen today are very important and very interesting and challenging as well. So I would like to conclude my notes briefly because I have my colleague Lee, and she can also complement what I missed in her. But we have a way forward with artificial intelligence. That's very important to harness the potentials while watching out the challenges. We don't need to just break it. The challenge for computer, as Tom mentioned at the beginning, it was very big, and it becomes a tool for enhancing human skills as well. Working together will be the way for us to move forward. So thank you so much, Tijana. Thank you so much for the presenters and for all of you. Thank you.
Lee, please share your thoughts.
Okay. Okay, let me do it within 1 minute, I hope. So thank you so much. Thank you, Tijana, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. In the first presentation, AI for urban planning, where do we start? So Thomas showed us fundamental AI capacities in facilitating urban planning. We have learned 7 capacities in Dorota's presentation. Further confirmed the capacity of AI. AI allows us to process urban big data, allows us to perceive urban environment from static to dynamics. Also gave us good overview of 6 fields where big data and analytics AI tools support the urban planning process. And both presentations provided a ground information for the empiric study by Dr. Li Fengqin from Shanghai University. Among 7 capacities mentioned by Thomas, 3 have been perfectly explained by Dr. Li, which are handling large volumes of data and predictive analysis and optimization. This refers to the role of urban planners' optimization of spatial strategy based on support of an AI analysis. So our 3 presentations focus on how AI serves as a technical tool and assistant for planners without power over humans.
Yes,
These
I
are
think
what AI. Yes, sorry.
I was.
Yeah, just
I was
what. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. These are what AI can do for us, but they are on the ideal principle what AI cannot do for us. So I have 4 last sentences. The first is adding to Rolf's comments. AI is capable but not everything. Second is technology for who, how to reflect citizens' needs and reshape citizens through digital technology and innovation. And the third is technical or social. AI is not neutral and the context matters. And the fourth reflection is ethics of AI. Just I want